So now continuing with your lectures on these literary terms, we have reached a new stage where we'll be discussing certain terms which are quite important in English literature. And the first one is figurative language. This is what I was speaking about, figures of speech or figurative language. Figurative means you just get an idea, you don't get the actual meaning. So, its origin, if you talk about the history of this figurative language, so it begins the moment this literature begins. And the beginnings of literature were made in ancient Rome and Greece. Okay, so that is why they are rooted in the classical rhetoric. Okay, because the ancient Greece, this Greco-Roman literature, that is a kind of beginning, because English literature that came very late, as late as for 14th century, and then the actual beginnings, though, were made by Geoffrey Chaucer, but it reached the final that high point, that is the pinnacle of success, only after the impact of Renaissance in the Elizabethan age. So Renaissance was nothing but this classical uh, impact on the native English literature. So Greece and Rome, they continue to be the origins of this literature, especially those classical works, right? Then Aristotle, Cicero, and Quintilian, all of them, they use these figures of speech. Figures of speech. What is the meaning of figure of speech? It is when writers use words beyond their literal meaning, right? Uh, word meaning is something which is called as literal meaning, right? But the writers, they use words not for their literal meaning but for something else. So that means the words are not words, they are kind of images. Okay, that is why they are kind of figures. What do you call, that is why the name figurative language. So they may create images, comparisons, and emotions. To do that, they use words beyond their literal meaning, right? Which allows a compression of meaning. You can extend your thought easily, and your writing becomes more lively, right? Examples are like you use even the classical writers uh, of Greece and Rome. They also have used these metaphors, similes, personification, metonymy, and so that literature becomes suggestive, because literature is not just history which gives you a chronological de facto uh, you know account of history. Literature is not history. It's not a simple record of events, that what happened and when it happened. In fact, literature, appeals to everything, our emotions as well as intellect. And in order to trigger those emotions, in order to evoke those emotions, in order to create those concepts in the mind, in the intellect, the writers, they don't use the words verbatim. That means just like that. They create images, and these images, these comparison, and these emotions, that gives that a kind of attraction for the readers to draw multiple meanings out of the same given thing. That is the beauty of literature. One person reading a line may interpret it differently, uh, given his circumstances or situation, and the same person and the other person reading those same lines may feel differently. That is the beauty of literature, and that is only possible because of this use of figurative language, right? So you got an idea of how it originated. So its origin is, you can call it the history, or the origin of literature is the origin of this figurative language, because language is the means through which human beings, they produce literature. So it is as old as human, or as old as the language. So this figurative use is quite ancient, right, from the classical Greek and Roman poets. Okay, then meaning you understood where the words they are beyond their literal meaning, so that they create an image, a suggestion, okay, a particular emotion in the uh, audience, right? For example, metaphors, similes, you know about them. What is a metaphor? A simile where you compare two things by using like or as. For example, if you say that she dances like Madhuri Dixit, so that means it is a simile. You are using the word like. So he is as brave as a lion. That is another simile. Uh, but if you don't use like or as and you replace this word with the same thing, then it becomes a metaphor. Like you may say that she is the Madhuri Dixit of our class or our college. That means it's not that she has changed her name to Madhuri Dixit, but she represents those beautiful dance moves or that kind of qualities which this great actress has. Similarly, you can say that he is the lion of our village. The lion of the village doesn't mean that the person has developed four legs and a tail, but because this shows that is the most courageous man of your village. So that is what the beauty of this language is, and that is possible only through the use of figurative language. You can take an example from Shakespeare's play that where he quotes that all the world's a stage, all the world's a stage. That means uh, uh, that doesn't mean that all the world is a stage. That means that means it's not a theater, right? He compares life to a kind of theater where we play different roles, okay, where you it invites you to have a deeper reflection. Like you people, now you are sitting here, you are sitting as students, now you are acting as students, so you are actors, right? You go home and you are someone's elder brother, so that is another role you are playing. You are a son or daughter of someone, so you are playing that role. Then suppose you are teaching kids, then you are becoming teacher, so you take over that role. So this is how we play different roles in our life, and that is what is the meaning of this phrase, uh, all the world's a stage, because we play different roles in different phases or stages of life. And similarly, if you talk about everyday example, then if you say that he is the rock of our team, for example, during earlier times in the 90s, so Rahul Dravid was called as the rock of Indian cricket team because he stood, very resiliently even when everyone got out. So that's a phrase, a metaphor which is used to refer to his great batting ability. Okay. So similarly, the example which I gave you is the lion of our village. Okay. So this is a metaphor which highlights a reliability of a particular person or the courage of a particular person. That doesn't mean that fellow has become a rock. Okay. I hope you understood this. Now let's go to the next term, which is folklore. Folklore. So this was coined in 1846 by William Toms. Okay, and uh, there were other classifications made by other people. You can go through this. What is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is traditional tales, myths, song, beliefs, rituals, and customs. Everything comes under this single term, folklore. Okay. So, like you people here, you live in this area. So every location, every place, every community has a culture, and every culture has some traditional tales. There are myths, okay? There are songs which are peculiar and particular to that particular community area or that place. So all these things, be it traditional tales, be it myths, songs, beliefs, rituals, and customs. How do these get transferred from one generation to another? They are handed down within a community. Like you people here in Kullu, there is kind of the Dev Sanskriti, that is what you call. And there is also something like you celebrate those festival of the gods, like in the form of fairs, mela. Like I keep seeing here every year there are fairs conducted across all major villages. So where people participate in different activities and uh, there is festivity and celebration all around. So this is something which is happening for years altogether, and this is something which is handed down to you by your forefathers, by your ancestors, and you also will be doing the same thing when you pass this tradition, these myths, these tales, these songs, these beliefs and rituals to your next generation. But there is a word of caution here. Uh, as I told you, every community has a culture, and uh, every culture reflects its own values, fears, and wisdom, which may not be written. Most of it is oral. But what is threatening us today is this global invasion of our cultures by the social media platforms. Today, nowadays, especially these youth, they are totally detached from the old rituals or old customs, and there is a fear, and there is a genuine fear that these things will vanish one day. Why? Because that connection is now disrupted. That connection is now missing. Slowly, when people they take to modern lifestyles in the name of modernity, they question the old values, traditions, and beliefs. Then they will detach themselves from these things, and that is under the great impact of this globalization. The force of globalization and capitalism is far more stronger. So, in order to save our those values, that wisdom which is there since ages, uh, you must connect with your elders, right? If you have some elders in your family, like your grandma or a nanny or something like that, please sit with them, talk to them about their times, and they will pass those things on to you. And that is how you can act as a kind of intermediary so that you can pass that wisdom, those values to the next future generation. Otherwise, obviously, in this overpowering, uh, you know, what do you call storm of modernism, or what do you call postmodernism, or this contemporary lifestyle, everything will get consumed up, and we may not have access to all these things in the future years. And that is surely going to come one day. So, one example of this is the Panchtantra uh, in India, and there is Grimm's fairy tale in Germany. So, that is just folklores that teach moral lesson. Panchatantra, each story has got a moral lesson, right? Uh, you might have also gone through some of the stories that Chalak Lomdi, uh, Chalak Kaua, Pyasa Kaua, right? Then everyday example, I think you understood. There may be a village story about the origin of a local festival, that how a particular deity came to your particular area. So there are a lot of folklore, folk tales. So you must know about them, and you must try to learn about your past also. Next is free verse. Free verse, the name itself suggests verse which is free, right? It has come from the French verse libre. It was a movement which was started in the late 19th century, and it was introduced by Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot. Uh, okay, it was introduced by Walt Whitman for the first time in his Leaves of Grass in 1855. So towards the end of 19th century, and later other modernists like you have studied T.S. Eliot's poem that The Wasteland. Ezra Pound, they were the major exponents or proponents of this particular form. It means you don't follow any rules while writing the poetry. What is rule? For example, this 18th century, the French classicists, they insisted on form. Okay, for them, form was very important. That is why they used a strict heroic couplet in their poetry. So their meter was, perfect. They paid more attention to the form than the matter. That means none of their lines, exceeded that the limit. That means if it was heroic couplet, then it remained heroic couplet. They could not experiment or they would not extend it further. But when you reach towards the end of the 19th century, because of the French Revolution or French concept of vers libre, not revolution, a concept vers libre, these Englishmen, English writers, they were also attracted to using writing poetry in a free verse. That means it did not follow any preset rhyme, rhythm, or meter. Okay, that means you can write just like you write a letter, you write an application. That means there is no constraint of rhyme, rhythm, or meter. So that is what is known as free verse. And it was popularized by Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot. Then, meaning, I hope you understood, it is a poetry that does not follow any fixed rhyme or meter. जिसका कोई फिक्स नहीं है ना राइम फिक्स है ना मीटर फिक्स दैट मीन्स सिर्फ रिदम बेस्ड है ये सॉरी अर्लियर आई सेड नो राइम रिदम और मीटर बट देयर इज रिदम इन दिस देयर आर सर्टेन pauses there are line breaks and there is also some visual arrangement because poetry needs flow and meaning so that is ensured through rhythm only there is no rhyme or meter okay there is only rhythm there are pauses there are breaks and there is visual arrangement means the words are arranged in a manner so as to create a feeling of flow and meaning वो जो वर्ड्स जैसे दिख रहे हैं लिखे हुए उससे लग रहा है फ्लो और मीनिंग राइट अदरवाइज देर इज नो राइम और मीटर सो दैट इज फ्री वर्ड्स I hope you got the meaning of what is the meaning of free verse. Okay, it is poetry that does not follow fixed rhyme or meter, but it totally and completely relies on rhythm. Rhythm, pauses, line breaks, and visual arrangements to create that necessary flow which is required in poetry. Example है Whitman's The Leaves of Grass, which was written in 1855. And then everyday example way you write something in your diary or you write letters to someone. So that is a simple everyday example. You write in your diary or journal with natural line breaks and rhythms without worrying about rhyme. So it is a kind of free verse. Okay. So next is heroic couplet. Heroic couplet I have already covered in the previous classes also while I was teaching you history of English literature. Again, just a recap of what we have learned. So this was introduced by Geoffrey Chaucer in 14th century in the Canterbury Tales. And the most perfect age for using this heroic couplet was the 18th century. That is the age of the classical poets, or you call it the Augustan age also, you call it the neoclassical age also. And it was perfected by John Dryden and Alexander Pope, right? So the Canterbury Tales, what is heroic couplet? Heroic couplet, you know it already, two rhymed lines of iambic pentameter. Couplet means two lines. And what is their pattern? They are written in iambic pentameter. I think I have covered this. Iamb, what is iamb? Iamb is a particular feat where there's unstressed syllable followed by stressed. So one iamb consists of two syllables, unstressed and stressed. So the penta means five. So there are 5 feet, 5 feet. So you combine those five. 5 feet means 10 syllables because one iamb has got two syllables unstressed and stressed, unstressed, stressed. So likewise, if it is penta, that means 10 syllable per line, or you also call it decasyllabic. Okay, but the important point is that it is rhymed. The couplet is rhymed. That means the last word in both the lines is sounding the same. Rhyming is there. But if there is no rhyming, then the same couplet becomes blank verse. अगर उसमें rhyming नहीं है सेम एम्बिक पेंटामीटर है बट लास्ट में राइम नहीं है तो उसको हम ब्लैंक वर्स बोलते हैं और अगर वही कपलेट में iambic पेंटामीटर में लिखी है और राइम भी है, देन वी कॉल इट heroic कपलेट. तो सिर्फ राइम होने ना होने से इट्स नेम चेंजेस. Where there is rhyme, you call it heroic couplet. Where there is no end rhyme, you call it blank verse. बाकी same features है. It is also iambic pentameter. That is also iambic pentameter. Then example, I've given you Alexander Pope's essay on criticism. Uh, this is an example of a couplet, a heroic couplet. What oft was taught, but never so well expressed. So these are 10 syllables in this. What oft, unstressed was taught, but never so well expressed. Okay. So everyday example is work is done, we have had our fun. So this is a daily life example. Work is done, we have had our fun. Work, एक syllable, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is not iambic. Okay. Next is hyperbole. How are you are going to pronounce it? It is not hyperbole. Hyperbole नहीं है ये. गोल गोल बोल नहीं. Bol baby bol. वो वाला बोल नहीं. It is, you must read it something like hyperbole. Hyperbole. It is hyperbole. There is no r, there is no o. This is hyperbole. Okay. So hyperbole, where does it come from? It comes from the Greek origins, which means excess. Excess मतलब ज्यादा, कोई चीज ज्यादा बढ़ा चढ़ा के कुछ कहते हैं. That is called hyperbole. Okay. ड्रामा में यूज हुआ है, सटायर में यूज हुआ है, ऑब्वियसली. देन व्हाट इज द मीनिंग? द मीनिंग इज इट इज अ डेलिब्रेट एग्जेजरेशन. एग्जेजरेशन मीन्स किसी चीज को जब आप जानबूझ के बढ़ा चढ़ा के कहते हो, नॉट टू बी टेकन लिटरली. उसका लिटरल मीनिंग नहीं समझना है आपने. क्या करना चाहते हो? यू ट्राई टू इंटेंसिफाई एक्सप्रेशन. आप उस एक्सप्रेशन को इंटेंसिफाई करना चाहते हो. किस लिए? ह्यूमर के लिए, इमोशन के लिए, एम्फेसिस के लिए. तीन चीजों के लिए. For example, you are walking and you see a snake on the way, and you are afraid of snakes, and you go home and start describing, oh God, I saw a snake which was around 20 feet long. So I saw a snake which was as 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 big as a tree. Okay. तो अब पेड़ के बराबर सांप तो होता नहीं है, लेकिन जस्ट टू एग्जेजरेट, टू शो योर इमोशंस. राइट. जैसे नॉर्मल एग्जाम में उसने रो रो के जो थी वो नदियां बहा दी. ओके. शी क्रिएटेड अ टीयर ऑफ व्हाट यू कॉल रिवर ऑफ टीयर्स. ओके. तो आंसुओं की नदियां बहा दी. आंसुओं की नदियां तो आप पता है, नदियां तो कैसे बहेंगी, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड. बट जस्ट टू एग्जेजरेट और इंटेंसिफाई दैट इमोशन, मतलब बहुत रोई. राइट. सो एक लिटरेरी एग्जांपल टू हिज क्वाई मिस्ट्रेस में है, जैसे एंड्रू मार्वल. He exaggerates time. Love you 10 years before the flood. ठीक है, कि बाढ़ आने से पहले मैं तुम्हें 10 साल तक मोहब्बत करता रहूं, कुछ ऐसा. मतलब बाढ़ तो कल आने वाली है, लेकिन exaggeration of time है. Then everyday example is I have told you a million times. जैसे कई बोलते हैं ना कि घर में भी डांट पड़ती है कई बार, तो मैंने तुमको लाख बार बोला है, 1000 बार बोला है, ऐसा क्यों करते हो? 1000 बार बोला है. So this is just an exaggeration, and this is called hyperbole. Hyperbole. So I think you got